After getting suspended from YouTube for 7 days over COVID misinformation, Republican Senator Rand Paul is in more hot water over an investment that may help explain why he's been spreading lies about the virus. So in this video, I'll get to my thoughts on the suspension, what Rand Paul's investment was, and ultimately the big takeaway from this story. So first, let's get to his banning, or not banning, his suspension, 7-day suspension from YouTube. This is from NBC. A spokesperson for YouTube told NBC News that the video violated company policy on COVID-19 misinformation, which includes, quote, claims that wearing a mask is dangerous or causes negative physical health effects, or that masks don't play a role in preventing the contraction or transmission of COVID-19. Quote, we removed the content from Senator Paul's channel for including claims that masks are ineffective in preventing the contraction or transmission of COVID-19 in accordance with our COVID-19 medical misinformation policies, a spokesperson said. This resulted in a first strike on the channel, which means it can't upload content for a week per our long-standing 3 strikes policy. Now, let me first before I give my thoughts on the suspension. Rand Paul, of course, reacted to this by tweeting out here saying, a badge of honor, left-wing cretins at YouTube banning me for 7 days for a video that quotes 2 peer-reviewed articles saying cloth masks don't work. So I'll get to exactly why his claim here is bullshit. But YouTube is not left-wing. I mean, if you follow actual left-wing media on YouTube, it's quite obvious that YouTube does not favor us. We are suppressed by the algorithm. You can't find our videos even if you search unless you go 20 pages deep. So they changed the algorithm around 2016, 2017 after the election back then because of all the fear-mongering around misinformation around that election. So since then, independent media on YouTube has been suppressed while the likes of CNN, Fox News, anything mainstream, anything corporate-backed has been lifted up in the algorithm on YouTube. And you can also see, even apart from that, YouTube does have a clear right-wing bias in the sense that it is biased towards anything reactionary. So that's why you see people like Dave Rubin or Tim Pool or Jimmy Dore, who clearly at one point were a little more on the left, have moved further and further to the right because that's where they know the audience is, or that's how the algorithm works. It benefits them to go further right. Now, let's get to some clarity on Rand Paul's mask claims. So this from Ross Story. Senator Paul insists cloth masks don't protect the wearer from contracting the coronavirus, but CDC guidance from day one has said the masks are primarily to protect others from the wearer. If everyone wears a mask, everyone is protected. Yeah, if you've been following any of this for the past year, again and again and again, the discussion has been that the mask largely protects other people around you more than it protects yourself. So Rand Paul claiming the mask doesn't protect you. Official guidance has not been saying that it does. The whole point is to encourage everyone to wear it. That way, everyone is protected. If you're talking to somebody who is wearing a mask, then you're more protected. But Rand Paul going off on claiming masks don't work when they have a clear purpose that's been obvious and made clear for a year now. But going on here, Ross Story says, on Monday, the New York Times published an op-ed by 2 medical professors who studied 1 million children and determined that next to vaccinations, universal masking is one of the most effective and efficient strategies for preventing COVID-19 transmission in schools. Children under 12 cannot be vaccinated, so masking is currently the best alternative, but it has to be mandatory. There you go. So if everyone in a school, all kids are masked, then it protects everybody. Now, let's get to, first of all, I guess my thoughts on the suspension here, and I really don't care. YouTube has a clear guideline around medical misinformation. If you're spreading lies like this that clearly only have a negative impact on society, then yeah, I have no problem at all with YouTube taking it down and giving you a strike. It is clear in their terms of service what you can and can't say about medical information, and this clearly would have Rand Paul's video here clearly would have a negative impact on society by spreading misinformation about masks. Now, getting on to just that this isn't new in terms of high-profile politicians being suspended, as Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has also been suspended or had a video removed on YouTube, or several videos removed on YouTube for being outspoken against lockdowns, vaccines, masks, and has promoted unscientific treatments. So Rand Paul isn't the only high-profile lawmaker to face a suspension on YouTube. But now, the other half of this story. Let's get to at least part of the reason why Rand Paul may have felt the need to continue spreading COVID misinformation. And that's because his wife bought stock in a company behind COVID treatment. So the more COVID patients in hospitals, the likelier it is that that investment pays off. So his wife bought stock in Gilead Sciences, the maker of remdesivir, a COVID-19 treatment. And his disclosure on that came 16 months after the 45-day reporting deadline set forth in the Stock Act, which is designed to combat insider trading. Now, quote here, the fact that he didn't disclose it and the investigations of other senators for possible insider trading related to COVID didn't trigger him to disclose it is very troubling. Walter Schaub, a senior ethics fellow with the Project on Government Oversight, said Thursday on CNN's New Day, adding that it wouldn't matter if Paul's wife made or lost money off the trade for it to be acceptable. So part of the defense here that Rand Paul's trying to make is that, well, my wife lost money anyways. I guess if she took her money out, but if her money's still in, she may still make the money back. So the shares have gone down a little bit, but it's not like this is clearly he should have reported this as it. Look, whether or not he realizes it, because it's not. It's one of these things where I don't know. I have a hard time believing that there are that many people out there that knowingly do terrible things. I think a lot of it is they convince themselves they are doing the right thing. They're still terrible people, but they convince themselves that they are actually doing the right thing. I think that's kind of what this situation is. I think Rand Paul, more than likely, subconsciously is being impacted by the fact that he's aware of this investment and in the hopes of that share price increasing if more people are in hospital with COVID-19. Or look, you can't really make a judgment either way. I don't know. Maybe he did knowingly spread misinformation because he was potentially benefiting financially over it. Regardless, though, the actual impact here is what matters. So this is the larger picture. This is the big takeaway from the entire story. As Walter Schaub continues here, saying the story about Rand Paul buying stocks is really a story about members of Congress buying stocks. It shouldn't happen. They should buy diversified mutual funds like folks in the executive branch have to buy. What greed motivates members of Congress to say that's too restrictive? This is the obvious takeaway here. No member of Congress should be buying stocks. How can you be deeply involved in policy creation while investing in companies that may be benefiting from the very policies you're putting forward? It is clearly a gross misuse of power. They should not be able to do this. And Rand Paul, of course, isn't the only one. I've covered several stories. There's been other lawmakers, including Democratic Representative Tom Malinowski of New Jersey, Republican Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina, and of course, former GOP Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler of Georgia, who both lost the runoff races in January. But all of them had made big investments into companies related to COVID-19 in an attempt to try and make money off of the pandemic. One last tweet here. Charles Booker, who is potentially challenging Rand Paul if he wins the Democratic nomination next year, tweets out here that this is absolutely crushing news. More will be shared soon, but know this: Rand Paul must resign. So he's calling for Rand Paul to resign. Of course, Rand Paul's not going to resign, but Charles Booker, this is the guy to back for next year against Rand Paul. Let's hope he pulls out that nomination. But ultimately, here, as Walter Schaub pointed out, this is a story about Congress people buying stocks. They should not be able to do so.